Hello, everyone. Welcome to It's Sybil. And look who's here. She's
Hi.
back. The California girl. Hello,
Lily.
Kwyn.
Oh, not yet. Dun, 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 dun. We are here.
Got the music down and everything.
Yes, yes, yes.
Very
That was
cool.
a decent drive. Oh,
Oh,
hi, Steve.
awesome. Awesome. Hello, Mr. Pammon. How are you? Steve
How
Pammon
are
is
you?
on your way today.
How are you ladies doing? And apologies for the poor camera work and the poor Wi-Fi. I'm not in my home office, as you can probably tell.
You look like you're in paradise.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I look a little
Oh,
blurry. Let me fix this camera real quick. Hold on, just
Yeah,
one
because you
second.
have you have some big shoes to fill. Quinn was just really bragging on how great your camera always is.
Yeah.
So
Oh, you know what? Oh, listen, that's again. I'm on the road team today, so it's not the home team. So, but Quinn has set the bar as she
yes.
always does. So at least my camera work is up to snuff. I'm a little worried about my mouth and my answer. So at
oh, we
least I'm
never
standing
worry
on
about
somewhere
that.
that can
No, and the audio
absolutely.
sounds really good too, wherever you are. So it
Yeah,
sounds.
no, no. Well, thank you, but and I think blurry. I think the crowd will appreciate my face being blurred. That's for sure.
I don't think
No.
so. I don't
let
think
me
so.
let me tell you, I've been called a lot of names, but handsome's not one of them, so it's all good.
No.
Well, I thank you for joining us, friend. Stephen Hill is unable to join us from across the pond there, across many
All
ponds, I
right,
should say.
all right.
So it's you and the girl, Steve Hammond, and so
Uh-oh, uh-oh.
I hope that you will hope you'll be
What?
okay.
Literally, no, I will be okay. I just hope the audience will be fine. That's what I hope.
Yes.
No,
So,
I'm always okay with you, ladies.
Steve, you are familiar with California, and this is Quinn's first full week as a new
Oh, wow.
resident in California. She's taken on a new job. And Quinn, can you tell us what your new gig is?
Yes. So I'm the director of the Office of Black Student Services at Loyola Marymount University in Marina Del Rey. Yeah. Oh,
And
you know, I
oh
mean,
yeah, oh absolutely, LMU, fantastic,
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank
absolutely.
you.
Yeah, well, congratulations. They're in great hands. And I'll tell you, we could use a lot more folks in higher education who are about us. And I'll leave
Yes.
it at that.
And
Okay.
trust and believe she is about us.
Oh, no,
Okay.
Although
no
I
doubt.
must say, your brother is really unimpressed with your new resident state.
Did he already talk about it? Oh,
Oh my God. And Ahmed yesterday and I, we could not say anything that was going to make him feel any better. Said, just wait till you go out there and you spend some time with Quinn and you're just gonna love it. And you can go from the ocean to the
yes.
mountains and it's just
Yes.
so beautiful every day. Mm-mm, it's dirty. I was like,
Dirt.
he's like, you're
Wait,
from
what?
Chicago.
That's good.
I don't know what. I don't know where the weight of pessimism came from for my brother when we got to LA, but it just the bug bit him, and the whole time we were in LA, he was like, "This food is okay. I mean, the apartment's all right. There's
So
oh my gosh, it's so dirty," and I'm like, "Bro, like, what's wrong? What
right, right.
happened? We are on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. We just walked past, Malibu area. We just saw these beautiful hills." But I'm learning more about my siblings as we are adults, and all of us have different preferences. I am like a city person, but Cameron is much more like chill, and he likes, a whole different type of lovely outdoor places where he can, hike and do all those things, even though you can do it in
You
California.
could really
But
do it there, yeah.
for
Yeah.
some reason, it didn't stick to him. So, but maybe when he visits, it will.
Okay, okay. Well, I just thought it was very interesting, and I encouraged him to take another visit there. He said even
Please.
the pizza wasn't good, and I was like, "You're in LA, and you
Wow.
went for the pizza."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like I said, different strokes for different folks, and we do hope that he'll give the town a second chance.
My mom loved it. My mom and my stepdad, they really liked it. So my mom is already looking at flights to come back. This is my
Right?
first time living in a city where people actually want to visit me. Like in Harrisonburg, Virginia,
Not
nobody
so
wants to
much.
pay that extra flight. So this is the first time everybody's like, okay, September, October, November. I'm like, dang, I only got one bed, y'all. Like, where y'all gonna stay? And don't let me tell them, where I live. Like it's just a whole nother thing, which I can't say.
Okay, okay, all right. We'll keep that to
All right.
ourselves. But if
Yeah.
you really want to know, we got addresses and stuff, so no problem.
Yeah.
Steve Hammond, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Life's a blessing. I'm out here actually with a bunch of friends. We are doing a little bit of a work retreat because we've got some new shows and some new programs coming up. And so it's time to get down to business.
Wait.
Yes, you
Are
do.
those birds?
Yes.
Yes.
Huh?
Live, Steve.
Oh yeah,
Live your life.
Listen, no, you know what's crazy is I'm actually, well, I can say generally where I'm at. I'm outside Tampa, Florida, um, which is actually super nice. But one of the scary things about being in this backyard is there is no fence, and I'm sort of by the Gulf of Mexico. And if you catch my drift, there's other things that could come out of these bushes in
Yeah.
a heartbeat that tend to like the swimming pool, you know.
Right.
And the neighbors will say, "Oh, don't worry about it. If you're around, they won't come around." Which I'm like, well, one, I'm not sure they can recognize the you're. They might be a little curious because they're like,
Right.
hey, I don't know if they're used to seeing brothers out here. Secondly, those things tend to be able to run a little bit faster than me. So if you see me abruptly get up, no, it's not just the Wi-Fi. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but no, but in all seriousness, I'm feeling really good, Sybil. You know, you, Yolanda, Quinn. To be candid, you know, I missed the Tom Joyner cruise. You know, not so much for the vacation, but I really enjoyed our dinner time conversations, and it's just always great to be able to interact with intelligent Black folks.
It was a great time, and dinner. Our roundtable discussions were always very stimulating and exciting. So we missed that as well. But I'm glad that we're able to connect. Stephen Hill is unable to join us today, and Myra J is on a working vacation, and so she is in an island destination. And hopefully we'll get word from Stephen Hill about how the songbird Shantae is doing in China, and all of that. But we've got a lot to talk about today. Yolanda, you good?
I'm great. I'm happy.
Good. She took me through my paces today at yoga. I'm like, whoa,
Uh-oh.
okay, all right.
It was delicious.
You know what's so funny is how people make an impression on you. I can't walk past an unopened a can of Coca-Cola without thinking about my homie Yolanda. I literally can't. You know, and I don't like real talk. I was like, you know, for the world to know, you know, most of my day job is dealing with artists and creative people, and so I'm used to some very interesting demands. And I have to say, Yolanda, there's nobody else on earth with you. I won't mention any celebrities' names, but let's just say the biggest of the big, and nobody has really taken the soft drink stuff as seriously as you do.
Her soft drink game is really
I'm
up
like,
here.
if ever Yolanda played the Essence Music Fest, I know what I'm putting on the rider automatically. Yolanda, you do not have to worry, girl. They will have an unopened can of Coke automatically. You understand what I'm saying? Main stage, sound stage, whatever.
Steve, it is my goal to be known as a person that brings peace and calmness and what have. And you with the Coca-Cola.
But you
deliver to you.
But you are calm once you get that.
That's what I was going to say. Absolutely. There you go.
And with
there
a
you
fresh
go.
glass of
There
ice
you go.
that's been cleaned.
Hilarious.
There you go. Oh yeah. People don't understand the chemistry, the alchemy of it. You got to have that to start off with the peace and love. Because if you don't start off with that, I'm not sure it's going to be peace and love. I know that for certain. That for certain.
So Quinn, we have missed you on the broadcast, but you've been continuing to invest in the newsletter with your stories. The What You Need to Know newsletter is our Monday through Friday newsletter. We'd love to have you subscribe. If you would go to SybilWilkes.com and give us your name and your email address, we'll have it in your email box every Monday through Friday. And we do have stories in there for you for and about Black folks and how things do affect it. And so one of our desires over the last several weeks has been to inform people about Project 2025. This is the conservative organization, the Heritage Foundation. This is their 900-page plus plan to turn the country in a completely right direction, including removing the rights of a lot of people. And Kwyn, especially as our LGBTQIA contributor, talked about that angle of and how the LGBTQ community will be affected by Project 2025 if Donald Trump becomes president. Kwyn?
Right. So as you said, Sybil, in this 900-page document created by the Heritage Foundation, spearheaded by a few of Trump's former administrators, including Paul Dan, Stephen Miller, and Roger Severino. I pronounced that right. But in this document, religious freedom is mentioned 26 times, but gender specifically is mentioned 111 times. And even more than that, abortion is mentioned 199 times, with DEI and woke mentioned nearly. Is drenched with a lot of Christian nationalist references, like they want to bring the American nuclear family back. And as we know, the nuclear family definitely eliminates trans, gender nonconforming, or queer people. They want to strip away non-discrimination policies, removing terms such as sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender from federal rules, contracts, and legislations. They want to restrict the application of the Supreme Court's decision for Bostock versus Clayton, which extended workplace protections against sex discrimination to LGBTQ employees. They want to rescind, so take back regulations prohibiting discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender identity, transgender status, and sex characteristics. They want to eliminate all transgender healthcare, not just for youth, but for everybody. They oppose all type of trans healthcare that uses public funds, and they want to end anti-discrimination rules. They want to reverse policies allowing transgender people to serve in the military. They want to expel transgender troops in the military. They want to expel people living with HIV who are in the military. They want to close the Department of Education. They want to disallow students using names or pronouns. They want to remove LGBTQ inclusive curriculum or woke curriculum. They also want to end the Department of State's LGBTQ equality initiatives that has been a huge proponent in helping LGBTQ people abroad. So when we think about the laws that are currently being enacted in Uganda, where if you participate in same-sex activity, it could be punishable by death. And so they want to completely end that type of assistance as well. So they are very, I don't want to say strategic, but they are very explicit in saying that they do not want any type of governmental assistance, any type of institutional, just safety for queer folks at any age, at any time. And because of intersectionality, we know that the rights for queer people are tied in with the rights for women, which are tied in with the rights for Black people, and so on and so forth. So this is something that everybody should really take a look at and really take seriously.
You really laid it out there, and that's what I was hoping to get in terms of talking about this. We've had your brother has talked about it from a political angle, and of course Coy has talked about it from a social justice angle, but you've really gone in and talked about all of the ways that this project 2025, and it's not unusual. It's been around for about 40 years. They have come up with their projects for the various Republican administrations going back to Ronald Reagan in the 80s. And, the Republicans until now have said, okay, but they weren't this far to the right as they are now. And now we are seeing a whole different turn in terms of what this country could possibly look like, not to mention the least of which is removing federal employees with Trump loyalists or right-wing loyalists. And taking these jobs away from people who have been a part of the federal government as civil employees for generations.
Yeah, if this is implemented, the article that I found from Q News said that it could fire at least 50,000 federal employees. That's so many people who need this job for their children, for the retirement from the 401k. But this is just goes beyond the scope of just like how this affect Black people. This is affecting everybody. Everybody really needs to go ahead and take a read to it.
Yeah, it's not something like, oh, that's about them. That doesn't affect me. In some way, this is going to affect you. Man, woman, gay, straight, bisexual, whatever it is, transgender, it's going to be, and it's going to affect us in some way or another. And Donald Trump has seen how people are responding to this, and he's kind of moving away from it, saying, no, I don't know anything about this, but yes, he does. Because as you said, members of his administration were those who were some of the architects of this. Steve, are you talking about this at all? Are you looking into it?
It's first of all, I think if you're a human being and not looking into it one way or the other, you're failing yourself. I think Kwyn laid out a very eloquent, frankly, list of things that are not only ridiculous, but are very spiteful and hateful. So the only two things I would add to the discussion outside of the obvious is we have to start looking at the root cause of most of this. And I tell people all the time, my theory is just a personal theory. White supremacy is based on personal insecurity, right? And you would say, well, what would cause a timeline, right? And in the day, it's called Project 2025, not necessarily the project, right?
Right.
It's because what have we been saying would happen in 2050? Right?
Okay.
In 2050, right, the majority will be the minority. And if you look at every single thing and you ask yourself why, there's obviously a lot of hate and a lot of other things behind it, but just ask yourself the rational thing beyond hate. Why would they do this? This is to systemically destroy anything that would allow a minority group, whether it's about sexual preference, race, even home country, right, to have any sense of power. They're actually going to dismantle. And they're not only going to dismantle it acutely from an administrative level, they're dismantling it over time.
Right.
And again, if you look at what the Heritage Foundation is, it's actually not a think tank. If you go in there and say what their mission is, their mission actually is to provide Republican administrations with an employment pool of managers. So the big thing I would tell people all the time, no, that's what their goal is. It's just no different than Hodrick and Struggles or any other executive recruiting firm. If I were building a company, you know, obviously you go off personal relationships, but the most efficient way to build a company is you get with an executive search firm and they actually will bring to you, here are the 20 people you need to start Tesla or General Motors. Well, obviously, when you recruit, you're recruiting for mindset, you're recruiting for cultural fit, and you're recruiting for acumen. So what most people don't understand, and by the way, I fault both Republican and Democrat administration, is you're not voting for Joe Biden or Donald Trump. You're voting for them to install a team. There's 11 cabinet members, which collectively employ a few million people, right? So when you bring in a Donald Trump, you're bringing in a manager, right? Who you might scrutinize Trump. You're not scrutinizing those 11 people who are going to report to them and the over 1 million, counting the military, employees they will have. So if you really wanted to take power away, think about all the jobs that would change hands next year. And when you have those jobs with federal employees, those are much more difficult to replace than every 6 years a senator, every 4 years a congressperson. That is equivalent almost to Supreme Court. And then just to be very specific, and again, you know, none of this stuff is novel or new, but I just encourage people to have the discussion. What's the largest employer of African Americans on the planet? It's the federal government. You know what the second largest employers are of African Americans? The state government. You know what the third largest is? Local agencies. Bus drivers, sanitation, schools. Affirmative action was actually never a corporate program. There's not a company on earth that has an affirmative action program. Affirmative action deals with governmental hiring and contracts. And for all those people, including my peers, right, in the hip hop and R&B community, who say, Steve, why do you care about the national thing? We need to be talking about the local level. Outside of property tax, city of Chicago, let's go with something that we all know well. What's the number 2 source of income for the city of Chicago? Property tax is number 1. What's the second source of income? Federal grants. You know what the third is? State grants. So at the end of the day, Black employment in the Black middle class, right or wrong, has depended on governmental programs. Even in the private sector, it's dependent on governmental contracts. The city of Atlanta wouldn't be the city of Atlanta if it wasn't for the Atlanta airport. The cities of Houston and Dallas would not be where they are without those municipal projects. Those projects are funded by the federal government. So we in the top 10 Black cities in the country think that even if we're in a red state, we're safe in a blue environment. What they're trying to do is take our green money. And that green money is our safety net. And so last but not least, I'll go back and say the most affluent community in Black America isn't where I'm at right now. It isn't Hollywood. It isn't New York or Wall Street. Do you know what it is? It's 6 counties adjacent to the Washington, D.C. area.
The DMV.
Why is that? Because our grandparents and parents could depend on a $40,000 a year job for 30 years with full benefits. There is no Black middle class without the federal government. And so I'm telling you guys this with a straight face. The trickle down theory has never worked. and it won't work if there's none of us to trickle down to.
Two.
So we can talk about, well, I don't necessarily agree with this with the LGBTQ movement. I don't know if I should do this with relative to Palestine. I say all that's a fair discussion, but that's like arguing over what's for dinner when the house is on fire.
You
At
got
the end
no
of the day, yeah.
There's
Yeah.
somebody who said that queer rights are not tied into Black rights in our comment section. And I think
Yeah.
people keep looking at queer rights as something separate, where there are Black queer people and there are Black trans people. So literally, you cannot separate women's rights, queer rights, immigration rights, housing rights, all of this from Black people, because all of us are still like included in that. Like I can't separate my body into two different fights. I have to fight for all of us.
So we're gonna continue this discussion in our trending. It's time for us to move to the what's really going on question, which is kind of related to this, and this relates from a discussion Yolanda and I were having earlier. And have you heard people who have said, at this point in time, we're now in our newsletter, we give you an exact breakdown of how far we are from the election, the general election, November 5th. And we're now less than 4 months. We're like 3 months and 3 weeks away. And so by this point, are there people that you're running into and who say, I don't know who I'm going to vote for? And what's your response to that? I'm really curious, because I'm incredulous when people tell me that, but I need some help, to respond to that, because and Kwyn, I think especially with young people, if they're going to vote at all, that's a great concern. And Steve, about people who are kind of straddling that fence, they maybe have a little Amber Rose in them, they might have
Yeah, no, stop that. And too many people got a little Amber Rose in them. Now, it might be a lot of people that's been in Amber Rose, but at the end of the day, we don't have too many people that's got Amber Rose in them, and that's independent of sexual preference. You know what I mean? That's. Oh, I know. Yolanda didn't just hang up on me. Yolanda, did you just hang up on me? Yolanda just hung up on me.
Oh my
Girl, come on
goodness,
now.
did
I
you
thought
say
we were
that?
homies. Hey, listen, the beautiful thing about not having a job, I can't get fired. So I tell people this all the time. Literally, I tell you, at the end of the day, I'm a guest, so you can get rid of me quickly, Yolanda. Absolutely.
We will never get rid of you, my friend.
All you got to do is hang up, and I'm good.
No,
you always got a job here. You always got a job here as a truth teller.
Yeah.
So that's the question, Kwyn, and maybe you want to start, because I am so well, because I eat, sleep, and breathe the whole political game. And yes, I am going to watch the convention tonight, so you won't have to, and so we can talk about it tomorrow. But I'm just really perplexed, Kwyn, when people say it's a crapshoot. I don't know who to vote. If you don't know the difference between politician A and politician B, and for anything, but I'm thinking about the top jobs there, then we got some work to do.
I do think we have a lot of work to do. I personally, in my own journey, did not know all that was on the ballot until I was like 22, 23. And that's no reflection of like my mother's brilliant relationship with civic engagement or like my family and like my upbringing. It was just more so it just was inaccessible, and it wasn't something that I considered a priority when you're in college. Like when you're in college, the first thing you're excited for is to live on your own.
Right.
And you forget with that independence, you actually have to exercise, your democracy. I have met people who have told me they're not voting. I have met people who told me that they not necessarily don't know who to vote for, but they don't know which person out of the two. And I think telling young people, even though I'm a millennial, but telling us time and time again between the lesser of two evils, does it only denotes and has an undertone that both of them are bad. And I can speak for myself. I have grown too accustomed to have the privilege to choose something else, like another alternative. And I think that's where young people are, especially, folks brought up Palestine. Both of these people did not decry against the genocide. You also have the fact that both of these candidates have not been strong advocate for women. And even
I would beg to differ with you on that one, but okay.
With Joe Biden?
Oh
Didn't
yeah,
he have a whole essay situation a couple of years ago?
that's not. No, I'm talking about his policies.
Oh no, I'm talking about them as people. That's the thing. Like, so I feel
Wait,
as if,
did he
like,
have
for
a what
time,
a couple of years ago?
You're
I
saying
said,
sexual assault?
yeah,
Well, I know there have been accusations, but he's never gone
right.
on trial for it.
Yeah,
But
that's
that's
not
the
fair.
thing. Like,
So have I.
I don't know if I can use our justice system as barometer on if somebody did something personally,
Okay.
but I think that it's just a thickness of, okay, we're going to rely on this person again to do something for us when we honestly know that they haven't done anything for us within these 4 years.
But
I haven't met anybody who's ever going to vote for Trump, but I have met people that are just like, oh, okay, well, we have other options. And I've tried to tell them, or at least like educate them, like, you know, what's on the full ballot, and like do your own research, and like, you know, the seriousness of the moment that we're in. But I can't put a big positive thing on people or some type of push to be like, I don't know who, because I don't want to sway people. I just want you to vote. And I hope that everybody does their research, watch the debates, read into the policies, look at their past administrations, look at their VP running mates, like all that type of stuff, so that they can make their own decision.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously a very nuanced issue, but I can tell you I have this discussion. I have a 21-year-old son, right? And so this is the first election that he's going to participate in. And what I tell him is what I tell everybody, my clients included, which is what decision is an uncomplicated decision,
Right.
right? Like the truth of the matter is the reason why we have a right to vote and why we should cherish and hold that is because the right to vote is never simple. And the beautiful thing I try to reinforce is you're voting for systems, imperfect systems. You're not voting for people. To use the hip hop term, the technology that we're all basically under is that we are voting for people. There actually are very few things a single person in any system influences, but you can have wholesale changes with a group of people. So I would just argue both the pro and the con, and without telling you.
I think Steve is stuck there for a second. So while we are waiting to continue that conversation, I do want to encourage people, if you have some thoughts on this, what if you are
Did I just
confronted
go
by
out?
people,
Did I go out?
you just froze up a little bit. You're good.
Yeah.
You're
Oh, I'm
good.
sorry. I'm sorry. I might move to another location. But the bottom line is, I'll be real brief, is that we have to vote for the systems and not the people. And then when I look at the system, and I'm not saying it's a perfect system, the system that's been represented by Biden, that was last represented by Obama, that was represented by Clinton, that before that was represented by Carter, and that's just my lifetime, right? Over time, I've seen the direct elevation of Black people. Have I seen the perfection that Black people deserve? Absolutely not. But I've seen elevation. Now, if you compare that to both the Bushes, to Ronald Reagan, to Trump, I think it's pretty clear which system is winning. That doesn't mean any one of those systems are necessarily what we deserve and what we want. But arguably, I would say at the end of the day, the choice is pretty clear. And the sad part about it is the discussions that I do have that go in the opposite way. I wish it was because we disagreed on policy. Most of the people who don't know any, and again, I'm not stereotyping or demonizing, but most of my colleagues, friends, acquaintances that are supporting Trump have a discussion about personality, have a discussion about age. And I tell people all the time, if we went on looks, age, and perceived personality, there wouldn't be a Black person in power everywhere. At the end of the day, we're always looked at because of the way we look, because of our age, because of our backgrounds. We're always given the short end of the stick. So the one time that nobody controls what I do, which is in that ballot box, I'm going to use that same discriminatory, superficial tactic to make my decision between two white men. That's insanity.
Yeah. And
And
speaking of
so if
which,
you tell me you love yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. You finish your thought.
I was just saying, if you tell me we have a policy disagreement, that's like a religious disagreement. I could try to educate you, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. What I just want to make sure the people who vote philosophically understand the power and the responsibility they have to really do the homework. And if your homework consists on TikTok and Instagram, and your news comes from, I won't mention, outlets, then I can't talk to you about politics. But if you tell me you read Project 2025 and we disagree on the no, but when we disagree on the contents, I don't have to agree with you to respect you. And I think where the disrespect comes from with a lot of this stuff is we got people who want an open mind when it comes to them, but refuse to have an open mind when it comes to these policies and procedures.
Yeah. Kwyn, I was going to ask you, don't forget to register in your new locale.
Yes, I did that already with the USPS, where you can change your address.
Yeah,
They
good
had
for
an
you.
immediate window. They said, "Oh, you moved locations. Time for you to register." But I said, "Okay, post office. Thank you. This is easy and simple. Thank you."
Good for you, and I hope you encourage your students to do that as well.
I will.
Yolanda, we've had this conversation. What are your thoughts?
Well, I feel a lot like Steve. The best part of what I do here is don't nobody know who I am. Don't nobody really care what I say. So I can really say what I say. Having said that, one of the many things that I like about me is I don't try to figure out the operation of other people's minds. I don't try to figure out what you thinking. I don't have intuition. It is what it is. With that, I think if you are over 21 and you are undecided, I believe that you're being disingenuous. I believe that there is nothing else that somebody can tell you that will convince you one way or another. I think those people might be like the idea that they're getting attention because they are the undecided. But everybody know we could have the election tomorrow. Everybody already know. That's number one. My second point is we keep telling people to do their research. Stop telling people to do their research because they're going to do their research on TikTok, on Instagram, and they're not that. Don't do your research. That's number two. But number three, and most important, I know y'all say I don't try to persuade you. Some people, you need to be told what to do. Some people can't make sound, wise decisions. And so you need to tell them, you need to do this, 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 and this. Why can't you persuade somebody to do something that's in the best interest of that person? Why not? Why are we so, I don't want to tell you who to vote for. Well, why not?
Is the Wi-Fi working?
That's grandma wisdom right there, Yolanda.
I
Is
think
it
it
really?
just stems from like when I canvassed for Obama's reelection, like just doing straight voter registration. And when I've done voter registration within the Cook County Jail with Chicago Votes, to me, like it's not that I had to abandon the importance of like who they vote for the ballot, but I just found it more important to at least they know like what is on the ballot. And that they know
And so
happens,
you should
right?
tell them, and since this is on the ballot, this is what you need to do, because I have people in my life, and I'm not kidding, that I tell them, when you wake up in the morning, call me and let me tell you which side of the bed to get off of, because they make such poor decisions that they can't even decide which side of the bed to get off of. So why come I can't tell you something as important as who to vote for? Why not?
Because that's more
Well, you
important
better
than
bring
which
that
side of
sister. I was gonna say, Sybil, we better bring that sister a can of unopened can of Coke, because you know what? At the end of the day, let me tell you, they waking up hustling backwards. They waking up hustling backwards, because that's the first thing I'm bringing Yolanda. Because if you don't, she is on you.
Because she's already opened
She
up
is
that
on
can of
you.
whoop ass, Steve. So you know.
There you go.
You know what's
Absolutely.
coming.
No, but you know what though? She raises such a good point, and that's what I say. And maybe I'm a little soft on it, but my patience level with arguing with people who don't do the research is really low. And the beautiful thing, like I said, about being Black is it's always been hard. But everything that's hard, right, has that inner blessing. And I think the problem is Black folks are so tired and we're so inundated with so hard choices that when we get presented with, again, a choice that's not simple, and I'll be very kind with that, is we tend to want to default to the easiest thing. So we default to who else we think is on. So I think it's not only disingenuous when people say they don't want a choice. The truth of the matter is 20% of the people want to go left, 20% of the people want to go right, and 60% of the people want to go for who they think is winning. And so we see the bandwagon effect. We see the whipsaw. And I'm talking about amongst us.
Amen. Come
The
on.
truth of the matter is, and that's what's so dangerous about the rhetoric, even with the worst polling, the polling that the Republicans have say that 17% of Black men will vote for Trump and that only 9% of Black women. That's the worst poll. I'm not talking about the average scientific. So I'm saying the truth of the matter is, in its worst state, and I'm talking low voter turnout, the whole nine. I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but 85% of all Black folks have not only already made up their mind, will vote for Joe Biden. Doesn't mean they're all going to be happy with Joe Biden, but we'll vote for Joe Biden. However, the only danger with that is that if we keep talking about that this is close with Black people, we keep talking about that Black people are switching, we keep being worried. At a certain point, it's going to become self-fulfilling, not because Black people feel that way, but the Black people who do want to go the other way, if they feel safer, if they feel, and I tell people this all the time, the worst thing you can do is put a dumb person around more ignorant people, because then they don't realize they're dumb anymore.
Right. Yes.
And so
because they're
it's
the
up to
key
us.
in the valley.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. If the 20% of people who are going to vote right anyway, again, I'm just speaking my own political opinion. It's not the words and views of the Sybil Wilkes show. If they're making a dumb decision, I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about the people making the ignorant decision, because that's the people who can get their mind changed with facts. And it's just because they don't know the facts. You can worry about a Tim Scott. You can worry about the rest of these jokers, because their incentive structure is there to, again, I've got to watch my words correctly. Let's just say campaign for a certain thing, because that's what's going to reward them as individuals.
Right.
So we keep looking for individuals to save the community instead of the community saving itself. And so that's all I really want to say. It's just like the evidence sways. You want to know the biggest poll that, to me, the Republicans are afraid of? Look at the proportion of people with high education degrees that are voting Republican. And you wonder why they don't value education. Go just Google PhDs and what basic party they vote for. Right. Google higher education. You ever want to know why they haven't? How come the Republicans don't want to disrupt what's going on at UT Austin, but they're so concerned about MIT and Harvard?
Yeah.
Right. They never say that. They never say University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, oh my God, the professors there are out of control. Right. They never say that. It's where, because by the way, and again, no disrespect to those schools, fine institutions.
Hang on to that thought.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So as we move into our next segment, talking about trending topics, and you're right on trend there, Steve, and talking about the schools and where people are, where the political giants are most concerned about the schools that are on the Ivy League schools, East or West Coast, but primarily the highfalutin, highbrow schools, and of which we speak there, Steve, as opposed to the University of Mississippi or even UGA or University of Texas. You're right.
Well, it's because tax dollars, right?
It's money.
If you're in state government, you have leverage over UT Austin.
Yep.
Right. So Abbott has leverage. He has no leverage over MIT. But let me tell you what the leverage is over MIT or Harvard. It's called their alumni donors.
Right.
And so if you can create and instigate a situation where those alumni donors don't have faith in institution, you can instigate institutional change. The biggest advocate for this anti-DI movement is a guy by the name of Bill Ackman.
He's the one that started all the lawsuits. It came before the Supreme Court.
You know what most people don't know is, what's Bill Ackman's full-time job? Like, what does he actually do for a living outside of, get on X and instigate against any DI? He's one of the biggest hedge fund managers in the world. His hedge fund, do you know his hedge fund generally only invests in 10 to 12 companies? By the way, all this is public information. The number one company that he's invested in is Chipotle. The number two is Popeye's Chicken.
Which is why you'll never. And when we had that discussion on the ship, I
Yeah.
threw away my last chicken bone from Popeyes.
But so this is what I'm saying, and we have to be very cognizant. The man is not stupid.
Yep.
He's far from that. He may be misguided. We may disagree with him, but he's not stupid. So he has faith enough to put his billions in institutions that depend on working class and Black people,
Yep.
no matter sexual preference. But he doesn't want those working class Black people and LGBTQ people to be educated. You have to say why. Because the more educated you are, what's your propensity to eat fast food? What's your propensity to buy all this dumb stuff? It decreases.
Right.
And so we have to start saying that some of this is racism by definition, but the
Wow.
racism is guided on the insecurity of their financial pockets. And if they did not have money, if you wanted to attack them the same way they're attacking us,
Yep.
which is that we keep wanting to boycott the wrong things. And by the way, and again, not to put out a strategy, but I tell people all the time, you want to know how you can hold a whole room hostage with one bullet and one gun? It's because not one person in 100 people wants to be the one to get shot.
Mm.
And so if we make an example as a community, by the way, the same way certain communities, if you speak out against them, will make an example of you.
You.
And they
Right.
make example of us all the time, right? Okay, at the end of the day, if we targeted one person, doesn't have to be the entire United States, just say, you know what, Bill Ackerman, the next time you tweet something that goes against one of these sisters, I don't care what their sexual preference is at all. You go against my sister, even if she's in the wrong, you know what, Chipotle, your stock, I'm gonna short it. I'm never gonna go there again. And in
Yep.
fact, I'm gonna fund a study. Because
Mhm.
believe it or
Yes.
not, they fund studies against NEDI. But we're gonna get together and we're gonna get some lab and we're gonna fund a study to say you eat more than 3 of these burritos, you're going to die. Like we're going to be as crazy as they are. And if we do that, I guarantee you the pressure will start to get off. But we try to be right more than we try to move ahead.
But see, not only that, Steve, but we are also so emotional and we respond to emotions as opposed to strategy. And so with all of this, if this happens, I'm going to move. No, you're not. What's your real plan for moving?
Hey.
Well, except Sybil.
Hey.
Sybil said, listen, let me tell you something. As soon as Sybil got them red frames, I knew we need to leave her alone. You know what I'm saying? Sybil, like, listen, Yolanda, you could talk all this moving, but as good as Sybil looks, she ain't moving nothing.
We
No,
need
you're
some
right.
real
You're right. No, I'm
strategy
playing with
as
you.
opposed to the emotionalism that we do.
That's right. Well, the strategy is based on education, and I don't mean just formal education. I mean the lifelong education of wanting to be intellectually curious. The beautiful thing about conversations like this isn't that we know the answers, it's that we can inspire people to go find out the answers for yourself. And so I tell people all the time, when you attack
You
higher
want people to
education,
do their own research again, go on TikTok. That's dangerous.
but you know what though?
But
Listen,
on TikTok,
go ahead, Quinn.
has made things digestible for the average person. We have to be honest about the
But
lexicon.
if it's inaccurate, so it's digestible.
Not all of it. TikTok, I have actually, when everything was going on with Palestine and Israel, and even everything that led to George Floyd, the riots, the response happened because of social media. So we can demonize it all we want, but social media has given folks an awareness, a lens, and the opportunity to actually connect with people worldwide about different geopolitical issues. And so I agree with Stephen, like everything is not really about persuasion, but education. And the language that journalists, no shade, but the language that journalists, politicians, finance, hedge fund folks use, it's inaccessible. We have to actually find different outlets like the What You Need to Know newsletter that breaks things down for the common everyday person. So then you actually be like, wow, I didn't know what Project 2025 was. Oh, okay, now I understand it. Because you listen to CNN, they use a whole bunch of words that
and all you hear is blah, 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 blah.
Right. When it's just like, tell me what it is.
The modification, I agree with Quinn. The only modification I would say to that is we still have a one-to-many attitude as opposed to each one teach one attitude. So even the fact that we're reliant on institutions, whether they broadcast through TikTok or they use cable television, is by definition defunct and default. The truth of the matter is that, again, we owe it to not necessarily educate the masses, but our individual families. But not only educate them in a way that they know the answer, educate them in a way they can communicate with their peers.
Right.
Yes.
Because when you hear things, Jesse Jackson used to say this all the time, and not to cape for my frat brother, but this is something very important. Content without context is pretext.
Okay.
And so I think right now we accumulate more content than we've ever had before. But what social media is missing is the context. And so since we have more access to information than any generation's ever had, that's just a fact. But we have no communication and no understanding. We're getting the pretext for disagreement.
Yeah.
Right.
That's really what's happening.
Right.
And that's
And so
why
when we put even, yeah, but like let's just speak facts just for a second. What was the first thing after Trump? You know, unfortunately, the ridiculous attack on him, and I condemn that. But the first thing people said was, I actually disagree with political violence, as if nobody pulled up to the FBI offices in Oklahoma City and
Right.
destroyed an entire building and killed hundreds of
And
people,
forgot what happened 30 years
literally
ago and
almost 30
20
years ago,
years ago.
Wow.
right? And so we forget about the riots in Newark. Like what I'm saying is that, again, context. So all this information came out about social media, which is anti-political violence, but because it's not in the true context of political violence, and violence in America has run rampant. Access to guns have run rampant. That no place is secure. You had people saying the Secret Service is a failure because they allowed this, not understanding that every 20 years an attack happens on a president since its inception. Right? Since its inception. But we want to act as, you know, my son would say, you're acting brand new. And it's not because we don't have access to the information, it's because we don't communicate the context. So that allows for misunderstanding, whether you're a black, white, gay, straight, right or wrong. And so that's why I'm advocating protect higher education, because at the end of the day, even if I disagree, I'm learning something from you if you're educated. If you're ignorant, you're draining.
Yes.
And I think that's one reason, Stephen, I think he uses this as an example a lot in his campaign speeches these days, is President Biden, you know, says, I want to remind people why I got into this. You know, in 2016, I wasn't ready. My son had died, and I just was not prepared for what that would take from me and what I had lost. And so he recognized his loss and said, you know, I'm gonna pass. And so he said, but, you know, the country paid the price for that. And so he said, but when I heard Donald Trump say that there are good people on both sides, when he was talking about Charlottesville and about the killing of Heather Heyer, and the people there with the tiki torches on that Friday night and walking through the city and just raising such a level of fear and hatred, he said, that's when I needed to know that I needed to do right by my country and to bring about a sense of peace and calm and a real consciousness to our country. And so we've forgotten about these things. We've forgotten about, I mean, you know, people say, oh, I've never known a president to be shot in my lifetime. Well, the attempts we may not be familiar with, but they have been. There have been those attempts, and so it's not as promoted as this was, because we saw it happen, unlike previous years and generations. And so all of these things are coming together, and we have to find a more common way of communicating. It may not be TikTok for Yolanda, it may be TikTok for Kwyn, but we have to also balance what we're learning, you know, and come to a common agreement and understanding in educating ourselves about this and being
Well, you know, the
open to
only
conversation.
thing, yeah, the only thing, and I love Jasmine's comment, and this should say that other than Stanford, but I would say that, you know, the Yolanda side of me, you know, let me just be super clear, especially given the money I paid for this shirt, be super clear. Oh yeah, no, you want to talk about education, like anyway. But there are a lot of people who want to hear what they want to hear, because there's no way you could tell me January 6th, literally 3 years ago, wasn't political violence. Right. So the same people who ran up in the Capitol,
they have blocked that out. They're trying to save their country, is what they call it.
And by the way, those are the same people who tell you to respect property rights, to tell you to respect police officers. But when those police officers from the Capitol said, get off this public property, they said, F you.
and
Right? Like, I
defecated
mean,
on the
so for a
halls and
certain
the
point,
walls of Congress.
at a certain point, and now I'm guilty of what Kwyn just said because I can't find the layperson's term for this. But in my world, we call it cognitive dissonance, which is people believe what they want to believe
Oh,
and what actually
Quinn's an
emotionally
educator.
suits
She
them.
gets that.
Oh no, I know she get. Oh, I ain't worried about talking down to Kwyn. I'm just saying, Kwyn, check me. At the end of the day, I'm listening to the educator. It's like we have to break it down so it's simple to understand. But to me, the simple emotional thing of it is that, as Yolanda said, everybody is so emotional because everybody's operating for fear. The majority is operating about fear of, wait a minute, what if somebody gets the upper hand on us? Then they're going to do to us what we did to them. We're operating on fear of, like, you know what, if you can't beat them, join them, which means we'll never be able to succeed, right?
Right.
We're only valued because of our bodies. You had a young lady on there, and this, I do mean to make fun of her, whose claim to fame is you're a celebrity influencer, professional
And they didn't know how to
girlfriend,
explain who she was.
but the people who want to talk to me about building family, about going back to the way things used to be, not understanding the way things were for my mother was not fun. The way things were for my people were not fun. But this is the person you tout. You want to tell us about, you want to destroy the Department of Education, but you want this country to remain a global superpower. Make it make sense.
Right.
Make it make sense. And so all I'm asking is that no matter what we choose, literally make it make sense so I can respect your choice. That doesn't mean I agree with your choice, because if I don't respect your choices, then how will we get mutual respect as human beings?
Right.
And I do agree that people should consume.
I'm going to give you the last word on this, Kwyn, okay?
Okay, sorry. I agree with everybody was saying, but I was going to say, I do agree with you, Sybil, when you said that there should be a balance, because I do think what we choose to ingest does affect our decisions and how we move in our everyday lives. And some folks, they're like, when we think of like a works cited page for a paper, they literally put TikTok and Instagram up there, and they forget that there actually are scholarly resources and all those things. So I do agree. I think you need to actually watch the news, and you can consume something on TikTok. But I don't want to discredit all of these other outlets and platforms because they have provided like funds for young people as well as like local businesses, and it just has helped our overall global solidarity. And I love the way that Joy and Reed literally clap backed at Amber Rose.
Yeah.
You haven't seen that?
That was in my trending topics. We didn't get a chance to talk about that, but she did.
Let me just say, Kwyn, I concede. I do believe I'm not totally mad at all at TikTok and social media. I do concede that there is some good, but I'm just saying I'm not sure that's where you want to do all your research from. But I am not saying that it's all bad. Yeah, so I concede to you.
Now I know that's what you meant. I know now.
Let me just say before we wrap this up, I do want to one thing that we did not get to talk about, and perhaps but I didn't know we were going to go this broad and so deep into the subject. But I did want to mention the fact that President Biden has tested positive for COVID. Again, this is his third trip around the COVID line. And but he has separated himself, and he's already taken the first inoculation for this, and they hope that he will be able to. The other thing is he's been on the road so much. All the folks at the NAACP convention get tested because
that's what I think about first.
Up to this point, and he had to not go to the convention of the Latina organization today. So get well, President Biden. And lastly, I want to close out with a congratulations on a happier note, and that is to the amazing Cheryl Lee Ralph. She found out as she was announcing the Emmy nominations today that she was one of those people.
Oh, good for her!
Yeah,
she got another nomination for her role as Barbara Howard, the teacher on Abbott Elementary. And so this has been quite a month for her. She has been caught in the hurricane that was coming to Jamaica as her son was being married. They escaped that, and the hurricane went around them. She's back home, and now she finds out that she's been nominated for the Emmy Award for her role. And I hope she wins, because she always comes with a great song and a great speech. and I just
Can I say shout out to all of these Blacksters who are teachers? because there is no Black person that's ever done anything in life that cannot look back and smile at a teacher who stole their heart and cured their mind, especially these sisters. That's why I would say, that's why I love that show, because it reminds me of home. And
Yeah.
every one of us have been affected by these sisters. Just if they could hear me, just keep on keeping on. Because trust, if I could go back, I'd be a little bit nicer and I would have listened more to you and
Yeah.
appreciated you a lot more. No, because listen, outside of our mothers and our aunts, at the end of the day, those teachers were our second mothers.
Yeah. And oftentimes it was one and the same, at least in my case. So I appreciate what you're saying, Steve. And to our young teacher here, Kwyn, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Charlotte, Bowen, Bellamy on Facebook. Sybil, please, please, please have Steve come back. Information we need to know. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Steve. We really appreciate
Charlotte, my only fan. We can,
No,
Charlotte,
not.
Charlotte and I can FaceTime. Charlotte and I can FaceTime. Charlotte, don't worry, I'm free. Charlotte, it's all good. Yolanda gonna kick me out, but I'm good, Charlotte.
No, as long as you come with that cold can of Coke that's been unopened, you're good.
No, and apologize for my horrible Wi-Fi. I'm not in my own home, so I kind of
no. But you gave us a nice tour of a very lovely structure. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Listen, shout out to my brother's Swiss Beats. You know what I mean? So
okay,
the
all right,
does get back.
Very nice, very nice. We're going to close out with our jewel. Yolanda, do you have it, or would you like me to read it?
I don't.
The essence of discipline lies in staying focused and avoiding distractions. So inhale discipline and exhale procrastination. We'll get to that later. Okay, thank you all very much.
I saw what you did there, Sybil. That's right.